Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Battle Buddy podcast with Keith McKeever. I am excited to have a credit expert, everything credit. If you're dealing with some credit issues or if you just want to brush up on some knowledge, this is the episode that you're going to want to see. So hang on.
Welcome to the Battle Buddy podcast with Keith McKeever.
All right, like I said, we've got credit. We've got Cassandra Jackson here. She's a credit expert, and we're just going to dive right into some credit questions. So before we dive right into the credit questions, Cassandra, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Cassandra. I'm from Alabama, and actually, how I got into credit was because I did my top 10 years in the Army, and I didn't take that finance and budgeting course they made us take at my first duty station kind of seriously, because when you're 19 and you're coming in, you're not thinking about credit. You're not thinking about your budget. You're not worried about that need to have six years worth of your pay saved up for emergency. I wasn't thinking about any of that. I was just like, hey, I'm young, I'm new in the Army, I'm on my own, and I'm having fun. Well, that fun hit me really hard when it came time for me to transition out of the military, and I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have any savings lined up, and I was a single mother with 3 kids. So all of that and no income lined up, yes, my credit played a big issue in what I could do. And they tell you, oh, you're entitled. Yes, you're entitled to the VA home loan, but your credit still has to meet the requirements. Mine did not. So after realizing that, I went through a year of trying to fix it on my own, and it was not only was it stressful, I was unsuccessful. And about a year ago, I stumbled upon this company that I'm with now, and that's where I began to actually repair my credit the correct way, build credit the right way, teach my kids about building credit and the importance of credit, and helping hundreds of other people along the way.
Awesome. I think that's really important. I'd have to agree. I was in the Air Force, and I mean I joined when I was 21, but I don't think you can really tell anybody who's like 25 or less. You can't tell them anything financial credit or budgeting or anything. You can't tell them none of that because they're bulletproof. You know, they know what they're doing. They're living their life. They're grown up. They're not going to listen. I think we all, regardless of what branch you sit in, you sit through those briefings and you just kind of, just like the computer-based training, right? In one ear and out the other. You're not really caring. And those things can just really, bite your rear end, because I think your story is not, it's not unique. I mean, there's a lot of people that get out and they don't have that financial education that they need to succeed, and all of a sudden it slaps them in the face and they've got to deal with it. So, unfortunately, I think this podcast can be maybe a wake up call for some of those people who are like, at that point of searching, that they need the help, and hopefully we can get them on the right path, because there's a lot of, being a realtor, there's a lot of misinformation about credit out there and the differences on how it's formulated and things like that. So that's good on you to grab the bull by the horns and just tackle the problem instead of just letting it not deal with it. Well, my credit sucks, I'll just give up on my dream of owning a home, or I'll keep going out and go and get those cheap cars at 20% interest, and you just don't get anywhere like that. You're just kind of treading water. So we'll just kind of jump right into the credit basics here. So the first question I have for you, the credit reporting agencies. There's 3 of them out there. Could you elaborate on what they are, and do they differ? How do they differ?
Well, the 3 that are used the most is the TransUnion, Equifax, and the skimmers. And honestly, the only difference is that they're each individually owned. They still do the same thing, which is report items to your credit report. And whether or not that information is correct is up to you. Because it can be as simple as someone stole your identity and they're using your social and having a good time, and now you have bad credit. It could be something as simple and easy as you're a senior, your son is a junior, and both of you live in the same house. And so either your information ends up on your son's credit or your son's information ends up on your credit. And again, they don't get paid to check for accuracy. They just get paid to put it there. So you as the consumer, you have to check and make sure that your credit report is right. And then you have the ones that say, my credit is perfect. I don't have to check it. Actually, you're the main ones that have to check it because you're the highest risk for identity theft. Whose credit going to get sold first? The one with 850 credit or the one with 560?
Credit card,
I can buy more with that 850 credit score than I can with that 560.
Absolutely. That's why you have the right to get your credit checked once a year, right?
Yeah.
I know there's some agencies that out there, and probably some websites that people should avoid, but it is a good idea to keep an eye on that because you hit on some good things. Identity theft, obviously, fixing bad credit is one thing. Fixing that, from what I understand, is an absolute nightmare that nobody wants to go through. And if you just simply check it once, good eye on what's going on, hopefully you can. You're not going to eliminate the risk, but you can, hopefully mitigate the risk or catch it in the early stages. But I'll also say you mentioned like juniors, seniors, people with the same name. I've seen that. I've seen that become an issue where somebody thinks it's no problem. I can buy a house. It's, and then they go look at their credit and they're like, I thought my credit was like 800, and all of a sudden it's like 650, and they start digging into it, and they're following certain things, and things got crossed up, and so if somebody out there is listening to this and they've got a situation like that, then it's really important that you keep a lookout for that, because you may be good with your money, you may be good to manage your credit, but it doesn't mean that your family member is. If you're if your son's out there ruining your credit in your name by accident, or your father or whatever, that could be a huge problem. So
definitely.
So the next thing here is how so they're all basically the same. How are they formulate credit score is?
So 35% is your payment history, which is why we tell people to make sure you make all of your payments on all of your bills on time. That's the biggest portion of your credit report, your payment history. The next one is your amount of debt. How much debt do you have compared to your income? Is it high or is it low? That's the next thing they're looking at, because if you're out here applying for all this credit, but your money coming in is if your debt that you have is more than the money you have coming in, then you're most likely not going to get approved for that credit line. Then you have the 15% is the length of your credit history. What's your longest account on there? How long have you had the account? Most people make the mistake of closing credit lines, not realizing that credit line has 10 years of history. You just deleted 10 years of your credit history, and your credit score takes a big hit for that. And then they'll call and be like, hey, my credit score went down 100 and something points. What happened? And my response is usually, what did you apply for? What did you close? And it's usually, I had this card that I wasn't using, so I just closed it. Me, I wouldn't have closed it. I probably would have used it as my gas card.
Yeah, that's always a good idea. I mean, my wife and I try and do that with some of our credit cards. Just try and keep a little bit, buy gas with it, which, side note to that, obviously there's all the skimmers on gas tanks right now. That is probably the safest way to pay for your gas. Just put your monthly gas on it, and you're racking up maybe $100, whatever, depending on where you live, and it just paid off. And
yes.
You're using it, you're keeping that history alive, because that's pretty much the biggest chunks. That's where the credit score is going to move the most, right? If you're opening up a new account or closing one.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, okay.
Because when you open an account, it's opened as a new account, so your credit score always takes that 30 to 40, sometimes 50-point hit. And most people get mad about it, not realizing that after you've had that account in good standings for 6 months, you're going to get those points back. But the key is to keeping the account in good standings. And some people, you always have the one that say, "Oh, I had an emergency." So for me, for my clients, what I tell them is, yes, the rule is to stay under 30% utilization, but I'm going to tell you 10 to allow you a wiggle room just in case an emergency pops up.
Absolutely. It's good to have wiggle room. If you have to rely on credit, and hopefully people are budgeting enough where they've got a little bit of emergency cash sitting around, they can do things. But that's definitely a good point. If you're not using it much, maybe 10%. I always tell people when they have credit issues, I'm like, hey, I'm not an expert, but check what your bills are. If you've got $1,000 credit limit and you're sitting at $600, you maybe make up a decent chunk of score by just paying that down below 500 or down below 250 or something like that. And in 30 days when those numbers get reported again or so, you might see an improvement. Especially for those people, speaking real estate specific here, who might be sitting at a, 600 or 620 credit score, and the bank they want to use requires 640 or 650 or something. That's kind of an easy fix if you can pay it down. So, definitely a good point. How do you go get a copy? Where, like I said earlier, there's probably some not very reputable places, but where should somebody go to get a copy of their credit score?
Annualfreecreditreport.com gives you your credit report free once a year. However, right now, due to COVID-19, they've been doing it every week.
Every week?
Yes.
Wow. They must have some very serious concerns for, credit theft out there.
Yes.
They're doing.
Yes.
That's a new one. I
get a lot of clients who I have to tell them to go ahead, and like the first thing that we have to end up having to do is enroll them in the identity theft protection, because when they reach the portion where they have to verify their identity, which is where you're only asked 3 questions that only you would know pertaining to your credit, and in answering the questions, they get them all wrong, because for them, they're answering correctly because these debts don't apply to them. But according to their credit report, these debts do belong to you. So we have to go ahead and get them started on the identity theft portion, and the attorneys get to work and helping them fix it and track it down.
Yeah, that's where it really gets messy and expensive, right? Hiring an attorney.
Actually, no. Our credit attorneys do all the work.
Oh, wow.
Like, I don't do any of the fixing of the credit. I just get your information over to the credit attorney. So from the moment you hit submit on my website, credit attorneys instantly go to work on your credit.
Okay. Yeah, because you need an attorney.
Yes.
If you've got problems like that, you've got some issues you can't deal with on your own. So, speaking of those, I'm thinking the next question is going to kind of lean towards the attorney. But if there is a problem on the credit, that's where you need to go. Is have an attorney back you up and help try and clear those off if they're fraudulent or you're challenging them for some reason.
Yes, because you can always challenge it yourself. Yes. But there is a 70% chance it's not going to come out because the verbiage has to be right. So by allowing a credit attorney to do it, someone who spent the money to go to school and do that, you have a better chance of getting that item off your credit and getting your identity restored if you're the victim of identity theft. Okay.
I would assume there's a big time difference too, right? Trying to do it yourself versus hiring,
It is, and it depends upon the company. Like some companies are paid for, which means they can only challenge 2 to 3 items on one credit report every 3 to 4 months. My company falls on a nonprofit, so we're able to challenge all of your negative items at one time, giving you a faster turnaround.
Okay. About how long, I know every
Most
agency
of
was
our
different.
clients see results as fast as 45 to 90 days.
Wow, I think that's pretty quick for a sensitive issue like that. So
Yeah, we have to remind them. We also have to remind them that the credit bureaus, even though we send the letters out, they have 35 to 45 days to respond to those dispute letters. And a lot of times, that's where all the time goes because sometimes they don't always respond right back.
of
Like
course not.
the 45 days can go by, and I'll get clients that say, hey, I got a letter back from Experian, but I haven't heard anything from TransUnion. And we'll be like, well, okay, we're going to go ahead and go with the next round of letters then and keep going. Or if I got something back from TransUnion, but I haven't heard from Equifax. Okay, well, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. And then the other thing, yes. And then the other thing is that I recommend to them is make sure that when you're sending your dispute letters, make sure that you're sending them certified. That way, when we call to inquire about them, they can't say they didn't get them because you have your slip from the post office where you sent the certified saying that they got it.
Yeah, that's a really smart one right there. Certified mail.
Yes.
I probably underutilized in a lot of different ways, even outside of this particular thing.
Yes.
It was delivered. There's no excuse, but you are still on their time. They're
Right.
going to get back to you when they get back to you, and
Exactly.
it is what it is. As long as you set that expectation right up front that hey, you're probably not going to hear back in the first week. They're going to take their sweet time as it sits.
Exactly.
Lower. They're going to get to you eventually. So.
And that's why we always tell them also, like for our people who like to do it themselves, I tell them all the time, it's fine to do it yourself, but never do an online dispute. Because when you do an online dispute, you're waiving a lot of your rights from the Fair Credit Reporting Act by disputing online or over the phone. And two, when you dispute over the phone, you have no way to upload supporting documents. They're not going to send you an email to upload supporting documents. You can't go to their website to upload supporting documents. You just became another number that's going to sit on somebody's queue, and then they're going to mark it and say accurate and send it back to you.
It's a really good point. If you have that certified mail, they've got it.
Exactly.
And if they mess up and they lose it or something like that, at least you've got proof that they had it and they got receipt of it. So that's a really good point. So back to kind of scores and stuff. What is considered the different ranges for those people out there that don't know?
Right now, after speaking to a few realtors that I connect with and refer clients to me, a lot of their lenders are requiring people to have a 740 or better credit score if they're trying to get a house right now.
Various loan types, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I have a few that said they're still able to get people approved with the 640, but your interest rate is still kind of high. And the debt to income ratio has to be pretty low.
That's a good point. As a realtor, that I'll interject there is, a lot of people don't really think about it. Like they think I've got to have a credit score of whatever number to qualify for a house. They don't realize that your interest rate is attached to that. So the better your credit, the better your interest rate. So if you've got excellent credit and you're over 800, you're going to get the premium. If you had maybe in a 640 range, you might be getting it 3.4, 3.5, and if you were in 800 and above, you could have been qualifying for 2.8, 2.9. It was absolutely insane, what that difference is based on credit. So another incentive out there for all the listeners and viewers to, just keep, don't get to a certain point and stop. Get
exactly
down to keep going and get yourself, up there.
Exactly. Like I have a friend now. She just did her VA home loan, and the only thing that they added to hers was that she needed to have, I think, about $5,000 set aside in an emergency account to cover her mortgage in case anything happened. And I was like, okay, I've heard that a few times when I first started, and my credit was in like the 640, probably 645 range. So I was like, yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of strange things that can happen based on the credit score, and the risk that the bank assesses on the house. It's part of the appraisal and the value and condition and all that stuff. And if you've got a lower credit score and a higher risk for the bank, and in a property that may not meet, the condition requirements like perfectly, I could see that sometimes needing that. So, on the credit basics was, kind of credit history. We kind of talked about that, length of credit, and things like that. Is there anything else that really affects the history other than length and opening up new accounts?
I think we covered it all.
Okay. I kind of thought so too. So
yeah.
So kind of going next things I had here is kind of what helps and hurts credit. So what should somebody do with accounts? Should they pay a credit card bill to a very low balance and just leave a couple bucks on there? I've seen arguments both ways. What are your thoughts on that?
A lot of people say that, but I feel like if you are using the card regularly, then why do you need to leave a balance on it? What I do is, if I'm up to my 30% utilization on my card, then I usually take that payment and I split it in half. And 15 days before my due date, I'll make a payment. And then 3 days before my due date, I'll make another payment. And what that does is, even though I paid my bill in full, it tells the system that I made 2 payments. And that's and that works for anybody that needs that quick 20 to 50-point increase on their credit score.
Okay. So you can take that with any kind of,
no
matter what your utilization is, even if you were at 60%, you could still.
Yes, and you need to get it down. Yes, and you need to get it down to back down to that 30%. Yes.
That's a good idea, I guess my thoughts are, a lot of people trying to remember to actually do that is probably a difficult thing. So, I would suggest to people, if you're going to do that, make sure you put it like in a calendar, somewhere where you're going to look so you remember. That way you don't actually skip it. Like, that's your intent, and now you've actually spent the money and don't have the money for the full payment, or get yourself into trouble there. And because then you're taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right?
Exactly.
Not the direction you want to go. So I had another question here about closing lines. We kind of talked about that not being a good idea. So for those people that are looking to make a purchase, whether it's a car or a house, maybe they're 20 points away. How long do you think? Obviously, there's a lot of variables, but realistically, it would take somebody to make that 20-point jump. Just one.
It's actually pretty easy, especially if they have credit cards or store cards that have balances that they owe on it. Like, if you got a Macy's card and you got $100 balance on it that's due, it's easy. Make the 2 payments, and it's gonna jump up. It's the same with your credit card. Make the payment, and your score is gonna jump up.
And we're looking like 30 to 45 days or so, right?
Yes.
60 at most, depending on when they're reported and when the payment is. So, okay. What about like 50 points? Kind of the same thing,
It's really
maybe a couple of months of that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
See, the good thing is, I don't think most people know, but Smart Credit, it's a website that we use to help our clients keep track of what's going on with their credit score. Well, it also has a tool in there that shows them how much they need to pay on each line of credit to increase their credit score a certain number of points. I use it myself all the time for my car note. I use it for my credit card and my store cards. Like, it lets you know, like, oh, are you trying to get this many points within this month? Then you need to make this payment on this car by this date of the month.
Is that smartcredit.com?
Yes.
Let me go ahead and put that up on a banner here for those that end up, watching the show. That way they can kind of refer back to it. That's a pretty cool tool. I'm gonna have to go check that out because I think there's a lot of questions that I get sometimes that people are that far away and they kind of ask, and I kind of tell them the same things. Pay down your utilization. Don't open up any new lines of credit. Don't close anything. Like a cool tool to be able to point them towards and say, look, take what I tell you and then go here and see what this kind of says and see where you're at. So that is awesome. So what you've seen before, what are the biggest no-goes, the biggest problems that you've seen, and then what are the biggest successes you've kind of seen?
The biggest problems that we see are bankruptcies, student loans, credit cards, repos, evictions, and medical bills. Those are the biggest negative items that we see the most when I have clients come in.
Which one of those are the easiest to kind of deal with?
Credit cards are the easiest because for them it's usually either the account's already charged off, so it's easy to get those. It's easy to get them removed. The hardest are the student loans and the bankruptcies.
Okay.
Those take the longest. And what I like to remind people is that yes, we can get the student loans removed off your credit for you, but there's two things you have to realize. One, you still owe the student loans. It's just no longer affecting your credit when you miss those payments or your loan is in default.
Because a lot of those are federally backed, right?
Right.
And
so you still owe
theirs.
Yeah. You still owe the Department of Education. It's just no longer on your credit. And the other thing is, if your student loans are in good standing, you just have a few late payments, then just request that your payments be updated to paid on time. Because you have to remember, that's a large part of your credit history that you're deleting. So when you delete that, be prepared for your credit score to take a huge hit.
That's a darn good point. You may not have college, but you could also be 10 or 15 years out, and that is a lot of history to wipe out. I never thought of
exactly
that would be something else. And so that's why it's kind of
it only works for you if you have a credit card. You have a credit card, or you have your home that's been on there just.
We kind of lost you there for a second. Kind of lost your audio.
Just through the loans.
Kind of lost you there for a second there. What was that again?
Kind of lost for a second. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we're good now. Yeah, I'm back up there a little bit.
Get
what
out.
You were saying there.
So if you delete your student loan, if you have a credit card or your home loan that has been on there just as long as your student loan.
Okay. So
Get out.
Get out. You got a visitor, huh?
I didn't eat.
What'd you say maybe the top three? What's that?
Hang on 1 second. Monique, come here, please. Put him in the walker.
Broke the bake.
Oh, I'll fix it in a minute.
Sounds like it's about nap time.
Yes.
So, last kind of question here I have for you on credit. What do you think are the best 3 practices that somebody can take realistically to help build their credit and maintain it?
If you have no credit at all, start off with a secured card and make sure you stay under your 30% utilization. Actually, getting started, I would recommend stay under 10 because you're trying to build. Also, make sure you pay all of your bills on time. Because if you know now, Experian has the Experian boost where you can actually use like your phone bill, your Hulu account, your utility bills, and all of that to help you build your credit. So by paying all your bills on time and using that, it also helps you build your credit and maintain credit.
That's a good point on the Experian Boost. I've heard about it before, but I don't know that much. How does somebody go about doing that? Do they have to reach out directly to
Yes, you go through the Experian
Experian?
website. Yeah, you go through the Experian website and set up the account with them. It is free. And when you do that, it'll give you the option to use the Experian Boost. And when you do that, whatever bank account that you use to pay your bill, that's the account you want to link to it. Because it's going to search through that account and it's going to pull all of your bills that you pay. And for a lot of
Gotcha.
people,
Everything that's reoccurring, so your Netflix,
yes,
your Hulu, Amazon Prime,
yes,
whatever.
and that can give someone
got
a
it.
quick 20 to 30 point boost on your credit.
Okay. I think that gives us some really good advice. Like you say, splitting your payment up into 2, maybe doing the Experian Boost and some other things for those people that are on that borderline of, trying to make that first home purchase or car purchase or whatever, and they know they're just a little under where they need to be. So that is awesome. And that smartcredit.com, still have that rolling at the bottom of the screen for those that are
And Smart,
viewing this
what it does when you enroll with Smart Credit is it's going to show you your TransUnion score. You do your real-time TransUnion score.
Awesome. Well, this has been awesome on credit. I hope this really comes in helpful for those people that don't really, most people that don't really know much about credit, because it's something, unless you're kind of in an industry related to finance or credit, you don't really know a whole lot about it. It's kind of a secret society, the best kept secrets nobody wants to tell you. It's just kind of one of those weird industries, if you will, that are kind of like that. So hopefully this kind of pulls back the curtain a little bit and helps some people out. So now I've got 3 other questions for you, and you've seen the questions that I asked beforehand. These are the questions that I want to ask every vet that's been in here. What advice would you give to someone who's looking to transition out of uniform today?
The first and most important would be to make sure you've done an accurate look over your credit. Go ahead and fix anything that you need to fix now while you have access to all the resources to get it fixed. Also, in transitioning out, if you don't already have a job lined up, work on that. Because for me, even though I was approved for my disability before I got out, I still had 18 months before it got started.
Wait.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's different for everybody. So that's good advice. So what would you say to any young person that's thinking about joining the military today? What kind of advice would you give to them?
Definitely do it. If you're gonna do it, do it. But at the same time, take advantage of all the resources they have available. I did finish my associates in computer science while I was in, and I finished my master's in human services while I was in. But most do it. They come in and they don't take advantage of the education, and that's how you end up with the student loans and stuff when you get out. Your education while you're serving is free.
And I was kind of the same way. I didn't take advantage of education until maybe about 4 years in. Then I took a couple of classes, did a couple of TDYs, and that kind of put a few things on hold. And that's all the education I did in the little over 5 years that I was in and got. I wish I would have taken
Yeah,
advantage
that
of more of that, because about 2 years ago I went back to school to use my GI Bill before it expires, and I kind of kick myself now. I'm like, man, I'm in my mid 30s and I'm just now going back to school, and I don't plan on doing anything different but real estate, but just to have that degree and use it, and it's a business administration degree. But I look back and I'm like, I had time to do it. I just didn't. I didn't make it a priority. So yeah, resources, because there's
we all
educational
that
resources,
like
financial resources, support. I mean, all that stuff is there for you. You just got to use it. So that is a good one. I like that. And then last question I've got here for you: is there any particular groups that maybe you're a member of, or that you're aware of, or a nonprofit that, or a veteran social group out there, any kind of veteran group, or anything doing that you support?
if you're in Texas, the Brighter Tomorrow Foundation is amazing. They do a lot of work for the community and the youth. And the veteran groups, I'm in a lot of veteran groups. My favorite is the Beauty and Boots. The commodity, the support and love from all the ladies is amazing. I love it.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of good ones out there, they're very supportive, and it's nice to have that support structure, because it's something you kind of lose after you leave. And I'm in a few of them as well. That not the same groups that you just mentioned, but I'm definitely in a few of them.
Yes.
That was that we met in. So there's a lot of value out there. So I highly encourage people to get on social and get in those groups and
Exactly, because that's going to give you the support you need coming out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because it's tough, and it goes beyond the whole financial and credit part. It's the connections, it's the jobs, it's all that stuff. So anyway, that's all we had. I want to say thank you so much for being here and agreeing to do this and talking credit. For those out there listening, you can go to smartcredits.com. You can check that out, or if you'd like to connect with Cassandra, here's her website. It's I will have it in the link description as well for YouTube, but it's www.ucespp.net/cjackson87. So you can go there and you can connect with her if you've got some credit issues, questions. I encourage you to go there and get yourself taken care of. So once again, Cassandra, I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Hope we can get you future. So, alrighty, get you out of here, and once again, folks, I really hope you enjoyed that. Go ahead and make sure you hit the subscribe button. You can find us on Anchor, Apple Music, Spotify, a handful of other places if you want to listen. You can watch us on YouTube. Like I said, share, subscribe, like, whatever the social platform calls for. Please help us get the word out about this show and about all the good things that we can do to help other people.